In accordance with the wishes of the British people, the United Kingdom is leaving the European Union. This is an historic moment from which there can be no turning back. We are going to make our own decisions and our own laws.
9 months after the British voted to leave the European Union, Prime Minister Theresa May officially kicking off the process today. Britain will now have 2 years to settle the terms of the divorce before it comes into effect in late March 2019. Look who's here, former host of Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous, Robin Leach, with me now. Robin, is Britain finally on its path to independence from the EU?
Yeah, it sure looks that way, but the next 2 years are going to be tumultuous. You know, today is a day in history, but it's a day of both celebration and misery on both sides of the cliffs of Dover. It's gotten off to a horrid start, and I would say that they're better off bringing in high-powered divorce lawyers from Hollywood than they are dealing with bureaucrats scrapping at each other's throats already.
You know, let's bring this back to the London terror attack, because again and again we've heard this is about Great Britain grabbing control, regaining control of its borders and its border security. There's an estimated 3,000 extremists on the terror watch list. The recent individual, you know, who's behind the London attack on the Parliament was not on that watch list. Khalid Massoud was not on the watch list. So will Great Britain have a better shot at border security now?
Well, I think that's, you know, one of the hoped-for prayers coming true. Britain just wants to take control of its own life, and it was tired of being dictated to in no uncertain terms by the European Union. Britons don't like the idea of being told what to do by foreigners in Europe. We have still the memories of World War I and World War II, and you know, when the European Union first talked about the need for a European army, a European security force, I think that was the beginning of the end for Britain in accepting what the EU stood for. We do not want a military-type operation running Britain from The Hague. It's that simple. Britain wants to look after itself. There's good to it, there's bad to it. For the chairman of the EU today to say that Britain will live to regret this day, I think was a horrible, terrible thing to say. This whole bargaining chips of using security, he called Theresa May's letter blackmail. She's concerned about the EU using the bargaining chips of European nationals living in Britain and British nationals living in Europe. It's a horrible way to start. If that's day one of the reaction after the Article 50 letter lands on the desks in Brussels, we are in for 2 tumultuous years.
Yeah.
And they're going to punish Britain to make sure nobody else bolts from the European Union. It's that simple. Britain will be the whipping boy of the bureaucrats in Brussels.
You know, I don't know if we have time for this, gang. We have British politician Nigel Farage blaming multiculturalism for the London attack. You talk about border security. You know, Nigel was on our show to talk about it. Let's listen, Robin. I'd like you to quickly weigh in.
If you dare to criticize open-door immigration, and if you dare to say that threatens our security, and by the way, I've been saying this for years, you get branded as racist, you get branded as extreme, and actually, all you're really arguing for is plain common sense. You know, since Mrs. Merkel said that anyone that wants to come into Europe can, about 2.5 million people have gone into countries like Germany, France, Belgium, and I just wonder how many of those 2.5 million in the years to come will do us damage. And the truth is that all of these things that are happening in these European cities, all of them have been caused by our politicians not doing their job properly.
You know, Nigel Farage and people like the Daily Mail's Katie Hopkins saying this is not about attacking an individual religion. It's about, you know, questioning and pushing back on a radical ideology. They're calling it the great multicultural cover-up. What do you say?
Well, I say that Nigel Farage is 100% correct in his observations, and I don't think anybody is going to disagree with his statement that Mrs. Merkel is at the root cause of all of these multicultural disagreements or problems. You know, any time that you say something that is deemed offensive to this business of integrating foreigners into existing cultures, it's deemed as racist. This is rank wrong. You know, what goes on in other countries should not be exported to countries that live civilized lives. It's that simple.
Robin Leach, we love having you on the show. Please come back soon, okay? Good to see you.